So now let's take a look at exactly how we use the switcher. Let's start with the Crosspoint module again. Like most production switchers, the Sony 8000G has an A bus, a B bus. Whatever is on the A bus is what's on program. Whatever is on the B bus is what's coming up next. In the middle here we have color LCDs that show the name of the Crosspoint after it's been mapped to the switcher. Over here is a shift button which allows me to go to the next level. So if I have more than the 32 buttons here, I can just hit this and it'll automatically change the displays to show me what I'm getting ready to put on the air here. Then what happens is your shift light and the regular Crosspoint light light up. Well, let's go back to a regular Crosspoint at the moment, an unshifted Crosspoint. Up here is key 1. This is key 2. Over here we have two delegates, key 3 and key 4. So when this light's on, it basically means that this row is now going to delegate key 3 and this row will delegate key 4. Personally, I usually leave them in the off position until I need to delegate those. Now here's a button called Crosspoint Hold. There's one on every single bus, on every single Crosspoint module, including every aux bus on the switcher. I kind of call these oops buttons. If I turn this on, what this is doing is this is telling the switcher that it is no longer allowed to change the Crosspoint on that bus during a memory recall. Only I can change it physically myself by pressing a button on the panel, but the switcher is no longer allowed to touch it. This works great when you've done something like built a whole bunch of effects where you use CG channel 1, and for some reason CG channel 1 doesn't work, or the operator has decided to use page 2 to come out. In this case, instead of having to rebuild all my effects again, I can simply hit Crosspoint Hold on a couple of buses, maybe at my background buses and a key 1, and next time I call up an effect, it won't change the CG on me. Now remember that these will stay on until I physically turn them off. So if it's important, if you turn them on, remember to turn them off if you want the switcher to start recalling things for you automatically on that bus. Now this button is the utility button. Each ME has two utility buses that can be used to do things like put video inside borders, video inside shadows, for our side flags feature. I can access the utility buses by simply holding down the utility button. Now, it's a little dangerous to latch this, so by default, you have to physically hold your finger on the button. Notice how my buses are all changing when I hit this. That's because I'm in the utility mode. So if I hold down utility and press this, I'm now actually changing the utility bus someplace. So with the utility bus, I can say put video inside of a border. So here I have a kind of a simple looking CG, and I have gone up and I've put a shadow onto it so we can move the shadow around a little bit. And in this case, I'm going to come up on the menu here and I'm going to hit utility 1 bus to put video inside. So using my utility 1 bus, I'm going to hold down utility, and now you notice I have a high tally on this utility bus now. So whatever I'm selecting in here will now put inside that border. So if I come over here, I can put a few things and change the video inside that border. So now that we've kind of seen how the Crosspoint module works, let's map it, change the names, change the colors of the labels, all those kind of things. Now that we're in the engineering setup menu, we'll go to Panel, Crosspoint Assign. Over here we have all the things that are necessary to set up the switcher and its crosspoints. Now this button here, Main Video Key Pair Assign, this should have already been set up by your engineering staff. This shows the relationship between the video and keys and what we call video key pair number they're on. For an operator, we're going to go back and we're going to set this thing called Table Button Assign. But first, over here, if we look at the table, this shows every single bus that's in the switcher. And you can see there are a whole lot of them, 106 of them to be exact. On this table, it shows that there are 14 different Crosspoint mapping tables that can be assigned to every bus. If we look at this, I have table 1 assigned throughout the entire switcher. But it's perfectly okay to assign ME2 to be a different Crosspoint mapping than ME1. So I would say table 2, hit table assign set. Now you'll notice that ME2 is mapped differently than ME1. Let's go ahead and put this back to table 1 so that the whole switcher is the same way. So first things first, let's name our sources. Under this button, Source Name LCD Color. This allows us to change the name of the source on an input by input basis. So we can see that primary number 1 has a source that I've called DSR1. Now notice that there's a fun little symbol between the R and the 1. Our displays allow you to have 8 characters, 2 lines of 4 characters each. If I hit source name, notice this little icon down here has a little keyboard. That means that a keyboard is going to pop up on the screen when I touch it. So see, I have DSR, a vertical line, and 1. What this allows me to do, I'm just going to hit clear here for a second. if I can type in a new source, let's call it VTR. And by the way, upper and lower case doesn't really matter. If you like to make things look nice, you can hit caps lock and type in VTR. If I was to type in VTR space 1, what will happen is the display won't look correct. When I have a space as the fourth character, it will make everything flush left. So notice that VTR is flush left while the 1 is centered. That little funny symbol I put on here, if I backspace a couple, it's called a pipe symbol. If I hit Shift, and it's right above the backslash right here, if I hit that, that tells it to basically do a carriage return. So now VTR pipe 1, if we look at the display now, it shows up as VTR1. Both the VTR is centered on the top and the 1 is centered on the bottom. So let's label a couple of other things. We're going to change DSR2 and we'll call that VTR2. So VTR pipe 2, hit enter, and now we have those. And instead of green colors, let's make them yellow. So we'll change that one to yellow and we'll change that one to yellow. Your choices for colors, by the way, are orange, green, and yellow. The color choices are there just to make it easier to group things together when you're switching a show. Let's go back up one menu, and now let's do the table button assign. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to take the video key pairs and put them on buttons. So you can see on the right-hand side over here, these are the predefined video key pairs that your engineering staff has set up. Over here, this scroll box lets me see all the different buttons. The knobs we're using have table number, button number, and video key pair number. Scrolling button number simply does the same thing as scrolling with my finger over on this. Using video key pair number does the same thing over here. Table number is which table I'm actually changing at one time. Remember I said there are 14 tables in the system. So right now I'm going to stick to table 1 since that's what it is I'm using. However, if you've gone up and you have signed ME2 to table 2, ME3 to table 3, and ME1 to table 1, you would go through and do this 3 different times for how you want to have those MEs mapped. So working on table 1 here, what we're going to do is I'm going to select and say, I want to have on button number 6, I want to have the Beta SX deck. Beta SX is the name of the source, that's video, and white is the key that was set up by engineering. I'm now going to take that and put it over here. We can see, looking down here, that the button is inhibited. I'm going to turn inhibit off, which will turn the display back on. Now I'm going to hit set. So now I have told that I want video key pair number 4, which is Beta SX and white as a key signal, to be put over here on button number 6. And you can see that that is now transferred over here. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do here. I can insert, so I can delete a whole bunch of things. Inserting and deleting is great because it makes it easier where if I simply add a source far up on the left-hand side of the switcher, I don't have to redo everything down again. All I have to do is insert one and then delete one to keep everything on the side lined up. Now scrolling up and down the menu is fine, but there's a much easier and faster way for assigning a source to a crosspoint. We'll just use the aux bus. Every time I press one of the aux buses, it automatically delegates the button selection for me.